Hi, Nat. Welcome back.
Hi.
We're doing our second interview. For those who missed our first interview, it's posted on my YouTube channel at Light Up Blog, and we covered gut health in the first one. And today's topic is food and mood. Just a brief introduction as to how we met. We met on Instagram. I was totally drawn by Nat's content, educational content, full of value. And so I've invited Nat to share her knowledge here with us. Nat, maybe you could just introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll get into our questions of today.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me again. It's lovely to be able to have these conversations around food, and kind of their effects on our overall wellness and health. I am a holistic nutritionist. A registered health and nutrition counselor is my official title. But I'm just excited to go over today's topic because it's something that is very near and special to my heart and kind of what brought me into nutrition. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into that.
Great, fantastic. So we're going to talk about food and mood. I remember being at a nutrition conference last year, and I saw that it came up in that context, food and mood. I mean, we've intuitively known that when we eat some things, we might have a certain reaction or feeling. However, there's more to it, so that's why you're here. So tell us a little bit about this connection between food and mood.
For sure. It's one of my favorite things, again, to kind of talk about and dive into because I find that a lot of people have not quite made that connection yet as to, yes, food is energy, but food is nourishment for all of the systems in our bodies, especially our brain, right? And when we're talking about mood, we're talking about hormones, we're talking about neurotransmitters, we're talking about brain health, about neurons firing, brain cells, all of these things that require nourishment, that require specific nutrients that we get from food. So we're talking about the ways in which specific nutrients, specific macros, such as like healthy fats and proteins, then get used to then create these specific things for our brain that help us either balance our mood or sometimes if there's a disbalance, we have deficiencies and it can create unbalance in it as well. And then one of the very kind of hot topics right now, I would say, is the gut and brain access, right?
Mhm.
And it's like the vagus nerve and the way in which we have like this really good high speed kind of highway between our gut, so our digestive system and our brain and how very much connected it is. And in our last kind of interview, we talked about gut health and how that kind of plays a role as well in our mental health. So really all of these things that are so integrated into our everyday and you think of food and the things that we eat, they're things that we have a choice over, the things that we have to be consistent at, but they can have a really big role in how we're feeling over a long course of time.
Mhm. So can you give a few examples of some of the foods and the impacts they may have in light of what you just shared?
Yeah, for sure. So, for example, proteins.
Mhm.
So we'll start off in there. So amino acids, which are the building blocks for pretty much everything in our body.
Right.
We need specific amino acids in order to then synthesize. So for our body to be able to create specific neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, serotonin, things like that, that help us balance, right? So dopamine, it's like the reward hormone, serotonin kind of keeps us calm. Then when we're also talking about sleep, which right now the name has escaped me, but of what
Melatonin?
the specific melatonin, there we go. I
I
talk
take
about it
it.
all the
That's
time.
how I know
Yes.
it. I'm at that stage and we're going to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. But Melatonin is another one, which we need tryptophan, which is a type of amino acid, which then helps us regulate
Okay.
sleep, which then it's like all of these different things. That's like if our sleep is dysregulated, then that's going to affect our mood. If we're unable to create enough serotonin, then we're not going to feel maybe as balanced in our mood. Maybe we're going to feel a bit more anxious throughout the day. So it's all of these little things that really play a role. And then we're talking about healthy fats. And I
Mhm.
would say healthy fats are so important for hormone health. We need all of the omegas to also create the healthy fats, but also majority of our fat of our brain is made out of fat. And in order to keep that healthy, we need to consistently be taking in healthy fats as well.
Right. Yes. Excuse the fire alarms. Can you hear it in the background?
I can't know.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So that's fantastic. Yes, I've noticed a huge difference when my ND had recommended I take omega 3s with not only my brain health, but my joint health too. So that's a whole other conversation. Fantastic examples. And it seems like each food can have, or amino acid can have impact on different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
And that balance, creating that balance. Fantastic. So in terms of the vulnerability that we face in food and mood and its connection, what stages of life, what circumstances would create an opportunity for us to really pay closer attention?
This is a tricky question. So there are specific times in our lives when we should be maybe a little bit more mindful of the types of foods, adding specific foods into our diet to support specific developmental stages. But also, I think that when we're talking about food and wellness, that it's really important to also look at it as it's wellness and it's something that we're doing every single day that requires consistency. So when we think of when disease kind of comes at us or happens, it's usually an accumulation of lots of years when we maybe haven't been the most consistent or the most mindful. That being said, some specific stages of life where you do want to be a little bit extra careful is childhood, right? Our brain is growing. We need
Right.
more of the healthy fats. Then puberty, there's a lot of changes. Our body again is growing, it's changing. Our hormones are kind of all over the place. We're getting ready to do other processes that our body wasn't able to do before, and that's going to be really important as well. And then also as we're aging. So watching the types of foods that we're eating. There's a lot of research right now about the effects of inflammation in the brain, right? And we think of like cognition and memory, and it's how can we support ourselves throughout all of our life stages so that when we are in our older years, that we still remember and we can still thrive. And food has a big impact on that as well.
Hmm. So you mentioned some of the foods earlier for the brain health. Given that we're just about to enter the winter season, what are some foods that would help with the winter blues that many people experience? And it could be a light thing, but the food could be a supportive measure, could it not?
Of course. I think that during the winter, we kind of have this instinctual want to hibernate almost. And I'm here for it. But along with that, it's trying to keep some sort of a routine. So
Hmm.
again, I always go back to the basics of are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough carbs to sustain your energy needs? And are you getting enough healthy fats? Which healthy fats is not just for brain health, hormonal health, but also if you're getting enough omega 3s, it helps with inflammation,
Hmm.
right? And when we're talking about the winter, we're also lacking vitamin D. So if you can
Right.
eat more foods that have vitamin D, such as like eggs, salmon, even getting supplements as well. That's going to be
Mm,
supportive. And then
mhm.
also going back to that inflammation, antioxidant foods at
Right.
all times of the year are going to be really good for you, but especially in the winter to support that. And then something that is a little bit more going back to like ancestral times of there's a lot of what is the word I'm looking for here? There is a lot of traditions where in the winter time we are eating more warming foods to keep our
Mhm.
bodies warm. So I
Right.
think especially in the winter, especially living in North America where it is cold here in the north, that it's a good idea to add more broths, add more soups, more warming foods into your diet that are also going to be really supportive as well.
And comforting. Sounds cozy to me. That's wonderful. So you mentioned healthy fats several times. So I kind of want to dig in a little bit deeper on what that is. Like if you can maybe list two or three healthy fats that would be great to include in our diet.
Of course. So healthy fats can come in lots of different ways, and it's something that you don't need a lot of. You need about 2 to 3 tablespoons of healthy fat in a day for most adults.
Okay.
One of the ways in which you can get it is in your eggs. Eggs are a really good source of protein and a really good
Yeah.
source of healthy fats. Avocados are a really easy go-to as well,
Mhm.
that have lots of healthy fats as well. Then nuts and seeds, which are kind of like on the go. You can just
Right.
pack some and take it. And that also usually has a very good source of omega-3 and omega-6, which is in the proper balance that you need it in.
Right.
And then also fish. And trying to eat fish at least once a week is a really great source, such as salmon, which is one of the fattiest fish that has lots of those healthy fats, and then more like smaller fish. So you usually find some people worry about, mercury poisoning and like
Mm.
toxic metals in the fish. But the smaller the fish is, the healthier fats it has and the less exposure to these toxic metals it has as well.
Right. Um, yeah, there's a whole other conversation we can have about fish and the source of the fish and all of that. I rely on my fish market to give me the straight goods. So yeah, I personally love Icelandic cod. Yeah, so I find that tastes really good, and it's a nice thick fillet that I usually have. Um, in terms of oil, say for salads, what would you recommend?
This is a very popular question of like, what oils should I be using?
Hmm.
A lot of people have swapped to using olive oil, and olive oil is great.
Hmm.
The only kind of thing about it is that it doesn't have such a high burning point. So
Right,
if you are using it to fry your food or cooking it at a really high temperature, then at that point, at a certain temperature, it does become toxic to the body. So
right,
I would say if you are doing more frying, if you're using higher temperatures, then coconut oil, as well as like ghee or like actual butter is a better option for cooking.
right.
There's also another one that words are escaping me today.
Is it
Um,
avocado oil?
avocado oil, yes.
Yes, yes, because I
Avocado,
use that too interchangeably with what you just said in the way that you
exactly.
just recommended. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if you are cooking, you are frying, you're using higher temperature, avocado oil, coconut oil, ghee, butter are your best bets. If
Yes.
you are sautéing, if you are just lightly cooking things at not a really high intense heat,
Yes.
then using olive oil is a good option, as well as using it over your salad and just as a dressing.
Right.
It's a
Yes.
really good way to kind of use it in.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, just being mindful of, okay, what is the oil's burning point and at which point can it become toxic to the
Hmm.
body is something to be mindful of.
Yes. And I've heard, and I think we've had this conversation before, that coconut oil is a healthy fat. However, for some reason, I don't do well with it. Every time I've had it and I go have my blood work done, it throws things off and is probably, I would guess, and you can confirm this, a digestive enzyme that I'm missing or something, that I'm not breaking down the coconut oil or something. Like I just don't understand how it can be healthy if I'm having this issue. So I love it. I wish I could have it, but it's something that I sporadically will have as a result of just my ongoing monitoring of my health through blood work.
Very
Yeah.
relatable. A lot of people who also, myself included,
Yes.
I like coconut milk, coconut yogurt, coconut oil, and using that as alternative for specific foods.
Yes.
But for some people, it can be a sensitivity, and I honestly at this point am not too sure. I think because it is very high in fat, that
Mm,
sometimes it can cause a little bit more of an adverse effect in certain people's bodies.
right.
So it's just being mindful. Again, we're going back to
Yeah.
that being intuitive
Right.
and paying attention of what works for you might not necessarily work for someone else, and that's also
Exactly.
okay.
Which is why you customize and personalize your consultations. And that makes complete sense. So who can your nutrition consultations benefit in light of this food and mood connection?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we're talking about food and mood, I really think of just getting curious and working with a nutritionist can be beneficial, even if it's
Mhm.
just like 2 sessions and you go, you ask your question, you get a little bit of guidance of what are foods you might be needing for your specific needs. It can be
Yes.
so helpful. But at also a more specific level, I think of people who already deal with mental health, right? Who are
Mhm.
neurodivergent, who have depression, anxiety, and this is something that they already live with.
Mhm.
How nutrition could be something that could be so complementary to what it is that they're already doing and can be so
Mhm.
supportive as well. So I think of the people that I've worked with who have ADHD, who might be on the spectrum, and sometimes people who are just very picky eaters, right? We have some certain food aversions, certain textures that just don't align with you, but you want to eat healthy, but the foods that are quote unquote healthy are maybe not for your palate. So how can we create balance? And
Right.
again, as you mentioned, that really individualized approach is where it's the benefit of working with someone who's going to be able to give you the options that are going to align with what you need and
Yeah.
meet you where you're at.
Right.
So I think, yeah, for those specific people, it could be a really good guiding point to add that balance. And then for anyone, just to get that information and to really
Mhm.
see that food is nourishment at all levels.
And the reality is life is full of ups and downs. And building resiliency through food as well as part of that stress management is so important. I remember when I wrote an article way back, and I'm sure the numbers are higher now, and especially since 2020, it was something like two-thirds of people between the ages of 25 to 55. I'll have to go back to the article. I think it was two-thirds. It was a high number. Two-thirds of those people between that age bracket would experience anxiety or depression at least once in their lifetime. To whatever degree, it could be mild, it could be more serious. And it starts with anxiety, apparently. Like if you don't deal with your anxiety, then that could lead to a deeper depression. And so it was very eye-opening. We all go through life challenges. And it's really important to know what tools we have available to us to support us through that and not make ourselves wrong for going through something like that or even feeling that way because it's a natural way of our body telling us that we are having a hard time with something and we need to deal with it. We need to look at it. We need to look at ourselves. We need to support ourselves. And the more awareness we have around what's available, the better off we'll be. I know I had to learn on my own back then. I mean, I reached out for all of this information, and I'm a true believer that we have a lot of tools externally and internally that we can use to help ourselves.
100%. I love that
Yeah,
and really that normalization of everyone goes through it. We all have ups and
yeah,
downs.
yeah.
And again, it's getting that support, building your team that's going to help you tap into those inner resources that you might have and also teach you some new resources and there are people out there doing the work that are really good at what they do and it's really exciting to see more of that holistic approach when it comes to health,
Sure.
mental health especially, and
Yes,
how food is being brought into the conversation.
yes,
With everything that I've learned, I'm like, this makes so much sense. It
yes.
makes so much sense of why we should be paying a little bit more attention of food and how it can really support us when we're talking about mental health.
That's right. And how can you go wrong with having a little piece of dark cocoa, right?
100%. Can't go wrong with chocolate.
With that. So moderation, right? We're both into moderation. So that's very helpful. I mean, we could keep going in deeper and deeper into this conversation. This is a great foundation, a great start. And then our next topic, which will be covered in the new year, will be food during menopause stage of life. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you, Nat. And how can people contact you? I know we're connected on LinkedIn, so anybody who wants to be introduced to Nat, feel free to uh, message me and I'll be happy to do the introduction. Otherwise, we connected on Instagram as well. Maybe you can share your handle, how they can reach you.
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is Nat Osterling, so Osterling. I also have a website, so it's my name, natalieosterling.ca, and you can really connect with me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, all of the social media platforms, and just shoot me a message. I'm always happy to chat, to answer any questions. I'm also at Advanced Women's Health. So if anyone has any specific questions and they're curious about maybe working with a nutritionist, then you can book a meet and greet, which is 100% free and it's 15 minutes to really chat and see if what I do is what you're looking for.
That's
So,
awesome. Why
yeah,
not? Why not? And it's advanced health for women.
Advanced Women's Health.
Advanced Women's Health. There
Yes.
are several clinics, correct, around Ontario. Is it just Ontario or is there an expansion happening across Canada?
They are currently in Ontario. So I believe there are 7 clinics across Ontario, and then there are some clinics in BC as well. I
Okay.
am in person in Toronto, so in Little Italy area, college in Ossington,
Okay.
and then I'm also in person in Port Credit. But otherwise, anyone across Ontario, across the country, really, and internationally can connect with me and work with me, which is the great thing about being a nutritionist is that I can kind of expand out and anyone can work with me.
Okay. That's fantastic. I didn't know that you were in Little Italy. That's awesome. And it sounds like there will be more opportunities and more, like I hear there's an expansion happening with Advanced Women's Health. Is that correct?
They are always growing, and I
Yeah.
know that there is a goal to be coast to coast. So we will keep our eyes open
Fantastic.
and
Wow,
see.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. So it was lovely chatting with you, Nat, and we'll see you again in the new year. All the best for 2025.
Thank you, you as well. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.